Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Matthew Schreiner podcast. And so I'm sorry, I'd like to apologize. I didn't have a video this Monday, today's Tuesday, but I didn't have one yesterday on Monday because I was sick. I meant to record on Sunday, and then I ended up getting, and then, of course, I forgot about that. And then on Monday, I meant to record it. I ended up getting sick, and I still sound a bit congested. So, but, so I was looking through on, let's see, can I find it still? On YouTube, and Father David Michael Moses had this to post, and I don't know if my audio will show through from my phone into the microphone, but actually I don't know if I should probably play this, because copyright issues, but I will anyways.
Well, God's goodness is bountiful. He absolves you of your transgressions. So enjoy the divine love bestowed upon you, avoid bearing false witness again, and embrace the joy of discipleship. What? W in the chat, the goat Jesus yeeted your sins, so enjoy the divine riz, stop capping, and skippity. Well, God's good.
So that's kind of a little bit of humor, and it was captioned a priest offering advice to Gen Z. But in truth, Gen Z is the future of the church, and it's the future of everything for that fact. It is the next generation that is, it's already completed. Right now, people in Gen Z, which my thing that I look at, it always says it ends in 2012. People who were born in 2010 are now entering high school, at least according to my thoughts. I believe that's how it should go. So Gen Z is almost completely in high school, or at least in middle school. And what that means is that Gen Z, at least the oldest part of the generation, is already in the workforce. And Gen Alpha, which is ending in 2025, meaning that Gen Alpha, the kids after Gen Alpha, will start to be Gen Z's children. At least I think that's how generations work. Quote me if I'm wrong, but the point is, Gen Z is essentially the future. And so most of them are either already completed with education or are almost entering into high school. And what that means is two things really, is that first off, Generation Z is starting to enter into the professional and workplace life, or have already settled into that, and the youngest part of that generation is also almost about to enter into high school. With that means that the next generation as well will soon be going into high school. But what that means is that we need to start understanding this generation is almost set. And soon we'll be seeing the future of this generation. We'll see more and more from this generation. And so that's at least my thought. And so I think it's important now that we look at and see what can this generation offer, and see what is this generation's experience. And the biggest part of that experience, especially for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, is COVID-19, and how that has affected our lives, and how that has affected our day-to-day routine, and how that will shape our world, both through Gen Z and Gen Alpha, as well as in things like education, in technology, in our day-to-day lives. One thing is I can think of already is the social and other implications that have been caused by the pandemic, and especially by the quarantine, that there's a lot of social aspects that are completely different because of the pandemic. People were online, and so we now have a very technologically centered things that we didn't have before the pandemic. Like, we now had to work, how am I going to get classes online? And in my day-to-day class education, at least in the high school I go to, we're almost completely online. Now, granted, there is some papers and stuff like that, but everything is online. I can get assignments and even class books online, even programs that contain the class books. There is now no need for physical textbooks when I have the internet at my disposal. As well as that, we also have now up and coming AI. So how will these things shape our day-to-day life? Because this is the future. This is the future. I thought about that, and I didn't even have an idea for this video or episode of the podcast. So I'm calling this something like, what am I gonna call it? The future. That's what I'm gonna call it. And of course, the future is not just something I can take a look at in one episode, and the future will continually be looked at along this line. And now, granted, the next couple of episodes won't be as in-depth in what's going to happen in the future, but there will be more videos where we talk about Gen Z and Gen Alpha and all that in later episodes. So I think the oldest part of Gen Z is 1997, with the youngest part being 2012. And then Generation Alpha is, I believe, 2012 to 2025. Now, the way generations work is that you skip a generation, and that's the kids of the generation prior, at least in most cases. But with the oldest Gen Z, so for example, if you could think of people like Redeem Zoomer. Now, I don't know how old he is, but looking at that, he is part of the older of the generation. I'm counting 2000s and 1999 as basically part of the older part of the generation. And those people are either in college or have already graduated from college and are now starting to do professional day-to-day jobs. They might be finishing off education. They might be finishing off education. They might have already finished education. They might be starting jobs. And so now we see that this generation, in the oldest part of it, is reaching completeness in their jobs and careers by the time Gen Alpha will be over. Meaning that many of them will start to think about getting married and having children if they're not already married. Most of the oldest part of it would be older than 21. By now, actually, that would be most of them are anyone. I can't do the math in my head, but because we're in 2024 right now, anyone born in 2003 and older would be 21, meaning that most of them, in this case, can buy alcohol. But that means that all of them are older than 18. So the oldest part of the generation. So even now, 2009, when we're reaching, like, the youngest part of the generation, essentially, people like that are starting to learn to drive. They're in the middle of high school. At least they'll be in the middle of high school by next year, however you want to count it. But the point is, we are in this sort of future. We're reaching for the future. And when you think about your life and think of all the things that just have changed in your life. I can think about this myself. When I was in kindergarten, I think the first time I really had exposure to technology where we were on a one-to-one basis with technology was in 5th grade. That was when we had our own laptops and all that. Back when I was in 4th grade, 3rd grade, 2nd grade, we had technology. I remember in 1st grade, we had these tiny little netbook laptops, and, we barely use them. I remember using them once to type a document. Nowadays, I'm writing documents, like, a whole lot, and we have laptops, and it's not just, we have laptops, and we use them sometimes. Like, in 5th grade, I feel we used them sometimes. We might have used them more than we did in, 4th grade and stuff like that. We used to have carts, and we would have to roll around the carts in class. I remember these areas where there would be carts of laptops. Now, they still do that kind of thing, but, it's mostly the older grades when they start actually giving you one-on-one technology and you get your own laptops. But I remember 5th grade was the first year I did it, and 5th grade was also the year that pandemic started. And so that was a time when everything had to be technology, 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 which is now forming the rest of the education that we will all receive, because now teachers are used to it because, they did it for 2-3 years. At least they had to do it 2 to 3 years because they had kids who were online. And so now we're looking at this and we're saying we're just continuing it, and we're improving on where we have been before, using technology more and more and more and more. And of course, I see this continuing on with future generations. Everything will be technology centered for education rather than book centered and paper centered, which of course is beneficial but also not. Now, I personally, because again, I grew up where you had physical textbooks and stuff like that, and that's not a rare thing anymore. And that's not a rare thing yet. But, I enjoy reading. I enjoy paper and physical reading and stuff like that. I don't like using technology to read books. I like to have the physical book. I like, especially with textbooks, or maybe not all textbooks, because again, you can't do this with all textbooks, but I like highlighting, making notes, putting sticky notes, things like that. But with technology, there's so much more. You have ebooks, you have all this stuff. And maybe I'm going a little far on this, but I also don't think I am. Again, the future is such a complex topic, and there's so much I can look at. And again, I didn't script this, so this is an unscripted video. But my point is, we have come so far. Not everything I do is related to technology. Not everything in class is technology, but most of it is. But I think that goes back to the pandemic, when we had to do this. Now, this is sort of we were working on getting technology, but what about AI? And AI is a topic we could spend hours and hours and hours on. We could go blue in the face talking about AI, because AI is such an interesting thing. It's like nothing ever created before. It is what I believe it is the future we all thought was coming. Look at the 80s and the 90s, and computer voices and computer intelligence was something we dreamed about. For the most part, it wasn't real. Like, look at all the sci-fi movies where they have these AI or android, whatever. It's not real. But what we have now is so close to that 80s, 90s reality we thought was coming, that it is what we dreamed about, what we thought about. But what we dreamed about, that was a dream. But what we didn't consider, even though all the movies, everything goes bad, everything goes worse, but whatever. But now we don't realize what is gonna happen. We don't weigh the risks of AI. And I believe that there are many risks to AI. The biggest being, of course, what your teachers will say. You're going to be cheating. You're going to be doing this. You're going to be writing papers with it. That is both good and bad. The first thing with artificial intelligence is that it's going to essentially give us less need to need intelligence ourselves, because we can just get all the answers. We can figure that out. There will be no need for people who remember that knowledge in the same way. Of course, do I believe this is true? No, not really. But I just see that this is this is the worst that could happen. The worst that could happen is that we start not needing that intelligence. But of course, what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is based off of the intelligence we have. Artificial intelligence will only be as smart as the can't speak. As the total human knowledge we ever have. Unfortunately, the total human knowledge we have, not even the smartest person has the all knowledge in the world. That's simply impossible. But with AI, all the intelligence in the world can be combined. So the intelligence of the entire world will be brought to this computer. And what that means is both good and bad. First off, I can get access to things I never thought I would have. It also means that people in certain problems that, because chances are the problems you have day to day, someone else is going through. So, it's much easier to sort of get answers for that thing. First off, I don't think it will replace all human jobs. Certain jobs it can replace. Think about the assembly line that Ford produced. What did that do? That replaced human labors. That's the, like, what I'm going to say is the earliest examples of machines replacing humans. That's not true, because the earliest examples go really far back to farming and stuff like that, where, well, and so things like that needed millions of people, not only needed a few people, and now with, like, the assembly line and with manufacturing and all that, we need less and less people. But of course, we still need people. We still need people. But with AI, that's also becoming less and less, because now we have, like, AI support and stuff like that, where we don't need a human being on that other end to offer you support. But we still need to understand that there are a lot of jobs AI can take place of, which is both a good and bad thing. And there's a lot of jobs that AI can't take the place of. Like, I don't think AI will ever have the human touch. Now, of course, yeah, AI won't have the human touch. It won't have human skin. It won't have whatever. But I don't think it will have necessarily an understanding of our human emotions. Because human emotions and human thoughts are way more complex than we understand. That's something we take for granted. Human complexity. We're complex creatures. You and me, we're made up of millions of cells. I can't see them. Now, granted, I can grab a microscope and probably see them. But I can't see the building blocks that make up my life. I can't see the bone. Like, I can't see a bone right here. I mean, I can feel it. Maybe I can feel it. But I don't see. I don't understand how it works. Sure, scientists and doctors can know and see how it works. But regardless of what scientists know, that will be what AI knows. AI will know what the best of our doctors know. But it cannot figure out answers for itself. Maybe in the future it can. Maybe it can find some answers that, a certain scientist never thought of. But it can't create anything real new. Yet. But I don't think it can at all, because computers are just our human intelligence. Sure, they're much more smarter than me. Like, I can find an answer to something I never needed to know. Like, I don't know. See, I don't need to know, and I don't know. I don't need to know, and I don't know. So, but the computer is way smarter than me. But in some ways, I know more than the computer. There are certain things that I know, but I know me better than any computer can know me. And we, as people, will know each other better than any computer can know us, because there's only certain things humans can understand, and that's a human complexity. So we will still need humans, and one place we need humans is the priesthood. AI cannot replace the priesthood. I think Catholic Answers learned that pretty well. We can, certainly, I've seen Magisterium AI, which is a pretty good application. It's the great starting point. It's not the best, but still, like, things like Reddit and Facebook, social media where I, at least, is associated with Catholic stuff. I can get answers, Catholic Answers. That's a pun, but whatever, I can get answers from people, but that's where that AI can answer certain questions, and as AI gets better and better, it can answer more and more questions, but it cannot replace the human touch. Things like psychiatrists and counselors, and most especially priests, monks, nuns, brothers. What I fear is AI will usher in another form of the Dark Ages. That is a worst case, is that AI will usher us into Dark Ages where we have no human knowledge and AI will know everything, and we have no need of knowing it. Because we'll have no need of that information if we can just easily, readily access it. But truthfully, the worst case, the only thing that will never change, whether AI is great or AI is terrible, complete garbage, the one thing that will never change is the human touch. Because AI is not human, no matter how much it can make awesome videos. This video is not AI, but it can make videos like this. And it's sad to think we will have things like this where people can train it and create tricks, and that's the worst thing imaginable. But yet it can't replace that human touch. It cannot replace the human feeling and the human emotions we have. No matter how complex AI is, it will never replace you and me, because we are individuals. We have dignity. We care. We have hearts. We have brains. We have minds. We have so much AI can never replace. And that's what being a human is. AI is artificial intelligence. You and I, the person sitting next to you, the people you see day to day, we are natural intelligence. We are real. Artificial intelligence is that. It's artificial. And it's only based on that natural intelligence we have discovered cannot do anything more than we already have. So don't fear AI. Live your day-to-day life. Avoid AI. That's my recommendation, is just don't use AI. Of course, it's a great thing. And even I use it from time to time. But I think we need to use it in moderation. It's something we need to use in addition to our own intelligence. We need to find our own answers, and we need to work on our intelligence rather than trusting in artificial intelligence. This was a short look into the future. Of course, this is I'm changing the title, Future and AI, a quick overview, because truthfully, all of these topics I've just discussed, we could talk about for hours until we're blue in the face. And I will talk about these later on, because the future and AI are such expansive topics. So, as time goes on, we'll be touching more and more on AI and the future and all this stuff. There's so much more we can look at. This is just a quick view, and honestly, there's a lot of things I wish I would work better on for this channel, and so as we go on, there will be more and more things. There will be more and more going on. So stay tuned. This video, I'd like to apologize for there not being a video on Monday. I was terrible. Felt terrible. But this was just a quick video, my quick look at AI in the future. And of course, this was a quick look, a short look. More and more will come. So thank you all for watching. This is probably the longest episode on the channel, on the podcast, which I'm kind of happy about. That's really cool. So, thank you all for watching, or listening. Sorry, forgot podcast. Yeah. So, more videos coming next week, next Monday, where there will be an episode. So, thank you all. See ya.